How y'all doing? How y'all feeling today? I woke up and I went outside and the air was just airier today. It was I'm tasting the same air Day was tasting. He was like, I'm tasting. Yeah. That's how I'm feeling. I went outside and the sun was shining bright. I looked up, said it's a beautiful day today. You know what happened? The sun looked back at me and said, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for noticing. You don't look too bad yourself. I looked up at the sun. I said, man, I wish I could shine like you on a daily basis. Sun looked back at me and said, look, if I had your hands, I'd cut mine off. All right, that's enough of that, but you get where I'm getting at. It's a new day. We are under new leadership in America. 4 years. 4 years we had to deal with incompetency. A dude just flat out didn't know what he was doing. A dude that flat out did not have any business as president of the United States. And now we got a shot. We got a shot, folks. And this video here is mainly for the folks on my timeline who didn't get out to vote because Joe Biden is just as bad as Donald Trump. We got a shot. And all I would say to you is have the same energy that you had when Donald Trump was elected 4 years ago. Either you said, oh, it didn't change. It didn't change. No, I'm still gonna wake up and go to work. It ain't nothing gonna change. It don't bother me. Or you said, well, he there now, so give him a chance. That's all I ask. Give this presidency a chance, just like you gave with Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying that you can't call out Joe Biden or Kamala Harris if something goes wrong or if they are behind something that doesn't go right for our American public. If they do something wrong, call them out. That's what they're there for. They're in the public eye, and we have the right to tell them, hey, look, this ain't it. I don't know what you think this is, but it ain't it. But I'm gonna keep it brief, and I'm gonna get right to the point that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden detractors, they have. Joe Biden, he is linked to saying and supporting a lot of things. I'll let you look it up. I'm getting into all of the things, but he's said some things and he's voted for and he's helped author some things in the past that are very questionable and some things that are just flat out wrong. But the most notable thing, I think, especially in the black community, the most notable thing I think that we associate Joe Biden with outside of being vice president is the 1994 crime bill. Again, you can look it up. I don't have all the specifics. I don't have all the details. What I do know is that the crime bill was mainly authored by Joe Biden and some others, but Joe Biden was prominent on the 94 crime bill. And a lot of things went into the crime bill. It is not just prison reform or what I'm about to get into. It's not just that. Things like sex offenders being registered was on that crime bill. And it was other stuff about violence against women's violence against women. So you can look it up if you want to go down the 94 crime bill and just see what it all entailed. But the main thing it had in it was, people were looking to expand prisons and build new prisons altogether around that time because prisons were overpopulated and we needed more space to put inmates. All right, so in this 94 crime bill, what they said was for states to qualify for expanding their prisons or for building new prisons entirely, what they had to do was convict a person and maintain them for at least 85% of their sentence. So if they stayed in 85% of their sentence, you qualify for, the expansion, whatever. What that mainly meant was it gave incentive for judges and prisons to keep black men, not just black men, to keep inmates in longer for their crimes, which in turn means that in the early 90s, in the late 80s, and throughout the 80s, let me back up. Throughout the 80s, we know what was going on. It was a crack epidemic going around in the 80s. We know this. So in order to combat that, we had to get crack off the streets. Okay, I'm with it. I understand it. If you want to talk about how crack got into our streets, that's another video. All right, government did it. Whatever you think, you can comment below. We can save that for another topic. But basically what I'm saying is there was an epidemic going on and it needed to be cleaned up. And they're right for doing that. There was something that needed to be done. You can't apply standards now to what already happened back then. I'm not saying that it was right for them to do it, but what I'm saying is something needed to be done. So they made up this 94 crime bill, and what happened was it targeted or it ended up affecting black people in large quantities. And black men and black women ended up going to jail and staying in jail longer for lesser offenses. You would have a little nick of crack, and now you're in jail for 20 years. Just so the states can get their money to build prisons and expand their prisons. So Joe Biden helped reinforce this mindset that once you get convicted, you need to stay in there and stay in there for just about your entire sentence. No early release, I'm not saying that was in the crime bill, but what I'm saying is the crime bill said stay in there for 85%. So in turn, what that did was make you stay in longer for lesser offenses. The crime bill also had like the 3-strike rule in there, and that, who that really targeted, right? It made it a crime to be like a part of a gang. It was like over 40 different gang affiliated crimes now that weren't crimes before, but now, you go to jail for it and go to jail for a long time for it. And Joe Biden was behind that. And all of these this is valid. I looked it up myself to see what he had to do with the 94 crime bill and how good or bad the crime bill was. And yeah, that's it. When you look back on it now, that's terrible. All for some money. It's not like he said, prisons, wink, wink, I'm gonna give you some money if you do this. But what you said, you inferred that you need to keep people in there for a longer amount of time, and that would deter crime or the crack epidemic or whatever. And it didn't. All it did was take black men and women out of the community for longer periods of time. And it's not like they were probably doing crack, right? They were probably committing crimes, but they were staying in prison like unnecessary amounts of time. It was too long, and it was unnecessary. And Joe Biden was a part of that. But do you know what Joe Biden has done since then? It's very simple. He's been on record as saying that some parts of that crime bill was a mistake. Shouldn't have happened, point blank. And that's a start. We couldn't get that from 45 after there was a whole documentary made about, I ain't gonna get into that, but we couldn't ever get that from 45. But President Biden, he's taken a small step and admitting to some of his faults. It doesn't make him less of a leader. It doesn't make him untrustworthy to do so. He's taking the right step. And the same goes for Kamala Harris. Most people know her for being a district attorney in California, and she was right along kind of fitting lock and step with the 94 crime bill and keeping people, people say that she pushed for longer sentences that kept black people locked up longer than it really should have. And that's true. I looked it up, and that's true. She did. That kind of comes down to her just doing her job. She was a DA. She was a prosecutor. She wanted to do her job to the fullest extent. Not saying that everything she did was right, but she has also been on record saying that, some things she could have done better. Everything she did wasn't right. She made some mistakes along the way, and I accept that. All right, I'm not saying that they're perfect. I'm not saying they're beyond reproach. I'm not saying we shouldn't criticize them because they've admitted to their mistakes. I'm saying they're smart enough to do so. So when you admit to a mistake that you made in the past, wow, I didn't know I was going for that long. But you admit to the mistake that you made in the past, lets me know that you'll work to fix it in the future. But this is A-Block. Sorry about the audio. Stay tuned for the B-Block. We're talking Steph Curry. Steph Curry slander. Get off there, man. I'm tired.